Welcome to Body Cams Canada, where corruption is exposed and transparency is alive. Today we are in Toronto, Ontario, and we have jumped in the time machine. As we go back to 2013, today's focus will be on the decisions and sentences of Toronto police officers who have been found guilty of taking somebody's life. We will look at two cases. The first one we will be looking at is James Forcillo, who has been found guilty of attempted murder in the death of Sammy Yatim. Yes, you heard that correct, he was found guilty of attempted murder in a case where he took somebody's life. Let's get into this.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
The people of Toronto gathered to let it be known they want justice. Let us know after this video if you think justice was served or not. Before we start the surveillance footage, I would like to say, I think we will all agree the actions of Sammy were beyond unacceptable. I think by the end of this video, it will be clear to you. He was dealing with some type of mental health issues. His actions caused alarm to many people on this streetcar. People were also in danger at times. The question we will be trying to answer is, did he deserve to die for these actions? And was the verdict and sentence appropriate? Focusing on the red circle, you will see Sammy in the white pants with his upper body out of view. For no reason at all, he reaches out and appears to try and cut the lady with a knife he is holding in his hand. There is no audio, but you will see people turning to look towards the commotion at the back of the streetcar. Not long after panic sets in, as people realize the man is holding a knife. Now would be a good time to warn you as he advances towards the front of the streetcar. A knife is not the only object he will be holding. This part is what causes me to believe he was suffering from mental health issues. You'll see him holding the knife in one hand, and with the other hand holding his own private part. Aside from the mental health issues the autopsy discovered, he also had drugs in his system. The combination of mental health mixed with drugs is the only thing that makes sense of what we are looking at. Do you think police are trained to deal with mental health breakdowns? Leave your thoughts in the comments. This is where police arrive, and you will see the flashing lights reflecting off Sammy. He originally appears as he is about to surrender with his hands up. However, he doesn't seem to want to drop the knife. Instead, he takes a more aggressive stance as him and the officers are yelling at each other. However, he does not exit the streetcar. James Forcillo was one of the first officers to arrive. He is currently pointing his firearm at Sammy. James is the officer directly in front of Sammy. Take note where Sammy is currently stepping back from, because it is extremely important in this case. You will see Sammy back away slightly off screen and soon return to the position he was originally in, at the top of the stairs. This move forward was the excuse the police used to open fire. Do you think they should have started shooting here? Or do you think they should have set a secure perimeter around the streetcar and called in a negotiation team? With zero to little de-escalation, Sammy's life has been taken. Now we are going to see what happened next.
I think it started off with a trial by YouTube is what it started off, because what we know is within 7 minutes of the incident taking place, it was posted all over YouTube.
But it's the way the judge instructed the jury to parse that video and others from security cameras inside the streetcar that led to their seemingly confusing verdicts. Guilty of attempted murder, yet not guilty of second-degree murder or manslaughter. Here's the reasoning. The jury likely accepted Forcillo's defense that he felt threatened by Yatim and needed to use lethal force, explaining the first volley of 3 shots, one of which fatally wounded Yatim.
Yatim's just taking a couple steps.
In this somewhat bizarre video defense lawyers presented in court, Forcillo tried to explain why he fired the second volley of 6 shots. He acknowledged that he mistakenly thought Yatim was getting back up.
And it looks like he's trying to get up.
Still, the jury considered those 6 shots to be excessive, unjustified, and attempted murder.
When you have an officer who is vindicated for the first 3 shots, who said, listen, my training, I made a mistake, and then he's put in this position, it sends a chilling message to our members.
I challenge everybody to try and find one case where a civilian took somebody's life, but ended up being convicted of attempted murder. Do you think this is common, or do you think special circumstances were created for James solely because he is a police officer? Before we get into the second story, please pause the video and leave your thoughts on police officers' ability to deal with people suffering from mental health. These interactions happen on a daily basis, and in my opinion, in depth. Training on de-escalation during these interactions is desperately needed. Let's get into our second case. This is another clear example of police corruption and lack of accountability. Sometimes the lack of accountability is for policy misconduct, but sometimes it is for murder.
How did 19-year-old Chad Facey die? It's a question a lot of people are asking. And to what extent were 2 off-duty Toronto police officers involved? This is a story that has gripped the attention of so many people across the Toronto area, and it is now also getting national attention. I want to talk about it because an explosive article by the Toronto Star detailing extremely concerning information regarding this case of how 2 off-duty officers are now facing disciplinary action for being involved in the death of a 19-year-old. So let's talk about who's involved here. So we know the man who's dead is 19-year-old Chad Facey. The 2 constables, the 2 officers are Constable Gurmak Benning, again from the Toronto Police Service, and Constable Calvin Au. The disciplinary charges that both Benning and Au are facing, they include neglect of duty, discreditable conduct, and insubordination. These are serious charges. So here's what unfolded. According to the documents, everything took place on April 26th of 2021. That's when Constable Benning traveled to Brampton to go purchase an Apple Watch that he found on Kijiji, but he also went there with Constable Au. Both of them, though, were off duty at the time, meaning they were not working. They went there to go meet up with Chad Facey, who was selling the watch. Now, the exchange happened. Facey got the money according to the police documents, and the officers got the watch. The off-duty officers got the watch. But after the exchange happened, the documents say that the off-duty officers realized that the watch was fake. And the documents allege that Benning told Facey he wanted the money back. But according to the documents, Facey ended up running off. So the 2 off-duty officers ended up chasing Facey. They went back into the car, according to the documents, and they were able to catch up to him, at which point Officer Benning was able to get the money back while Officer Au took the mail to the ground, and I quote, that's what was in the police documents. In fact, the documents also say that Au was engaged in a struggle with the mail on the ground and continued to try to maintain physical control of the mail as the mail continued to try to get up off the ground. Now, the documents also reveal this, that a second male ended up in the vicinity of the situation, and as soon as he got there, that's when both Benning and Au got into their cars and they left. Who is that second male? At this point, it's not clear according to the police documents, but we can only assume that was one of the friends of Facey, because in the documents, it also says that his friends, Facey's friends, were able to locate him. They found and saw him that he was unwell and that he had to be taken to hospital, transported by paramedics, and on that same day was pronounced dead. I can't sit here and tell you that these 2 officers are the reason that Facey is dead. That is actually what is under investigation right now. A spokesperson for the SIU, which is the Special Investigations Unit, that is the police watchdog that investigates any time a civilian is killed and there's an interaction with police with that. They confirmed to the Toronto Star this week that the medical cause of Facey's death has been determined, but they are not releasing that information because of all of the ongoing investigations at this point. But there's some really concerning details about this. And that is the fact that the SIU, they weren't informed about this incident. They didn't launch their investigation until 4 months after the date that Facey died. So the big question is, why did it take 4 months for the SIU to be notified? The Toronto Police Service, They say that they weren't notified until 4 months later as well. In fact, the Toronto Police Service says that they were the ones who contacted the SIU. Now, you're probably scratching your head saying, well, hold up. This incident happened in Brampton. So if it happened in Brampton, then technically Peel Regional Police should have been the ones to notify the SIU. Well, let's bring them into the conversation because this report, it goes into a lot of details. And Peel Police say that they launched an investigation into Facey's death after receiving a phone call from Brampton Civic Hospital. That's the hospital that Facey was transported to and ultimately was pronounced dead at. They ended up seizing Facey's phone. Once they seized his phone, that's how Peel Police investigators were able to link Constable Benning to the situation and figured out that there was an interaction between the off-duty constable and Facey. What's still unclear at this point is from when Brampton Civic Hospital contacted Peel Police and Peel Police figuring out that Facey and Benning had an interaction, when did they put those two pieces of that information together? Because as soon as that piece of information comes together, Peel Police technically are supposed to notify SIU. But listen to this. Peel Police say information revealing that Benning and Au were officers in that interaction with Facey only became apparent in August. August is the same month that Toronto Police say they found out about the information. August is the same month that the SIU says that they were notified. So 4 months passed before the police watchdog was notified, for the employers of these two off-duty officers were notified, before Peel Regional Police, who's investigating this, figured out that these two off-duty officers were officers working for a neighboring police service. I also want to identify this, the potential consequences that come from this tribunal. Because if they are found guilty of professional misconduct at the Toronto Police Tribunal, their consequences range from a reprimand to a dismissal. You're probably asking, well, what about actual charges, right? Like, not disciplinary charges, but criminal charges. Well, that can only be determined once the SIU completes their investigation.
A Toronto police officer charged in the death of a Brampton teen. Good evening. Chad Facey was 19 years old when he died in 2021.
His death following an altercation with two off-duty police officers. Tonight, one of them is charged with manslaughter. CTV Sean Lethong joins us now live with the details. Sean.
Well, Zoraida and Michelle, the family of Chad Facey has been waiting a long time for justice. It's been a year and a half since he died. They say this is a step closer.
19-year-old Chad Facey died following an altercation with two off-duty Toronto police officers. Now one of them is facing criminal charges. The Special Investigations Unit releasing a statement today saying 33-year-old Constable Calvin Au has been charged with manslaughter and aggravated assault. Facey was known for his music with the stage name DPA Face. His mother, Faye Fagan, today releasing a statement through a lawyer saying, "It has been clear to our family that there was some kind of misconduct that had occurred in respect of Chad's death. We are happy to finally see that the officer is being held accountable for his actions." It was the afternoon of April 26, 2021, near the intersection of Highway 50 and Bell Chase Trail at the border of Brampton and Vaughan. Toronto police documents say Facey was selling an Apple Watch on Kijiji, with two off-duty police officers being his customers. Toronto Police Tribunal documents say that at some point, PC Au exited a vehicle and began to pursue the male on foot, eventually catching up with him. PC Gurmak Benning directed the male to give him back his money. PC Benning reached for the money, and PC Au took the man to the ground. According to the documents, the altercation continued. Then the two officers ran to a nearby car. Facey was taken to hospital, where he later died. Peel Police tracked down the two officers using Facey's cell phone. Toronto Police were not informed of the incident until August of 2021, which is when the SIU was notified. With charges announced today, Asha James, a lawyer for the family, said in a statement, "This represents an important first step for the family in understanding what happened to Chad, and it is a clear message that whether on duty or off duty, police are not immune from being held accountable for their wrongful conduct."
That is definitely debatable. And even when the cover of the book says accountability when you open it up, we see a whole different story.
Gurmak Benning testified today that he texted Chad Facey back in April 2021 to buy an Apple Watch. Facey had posted it on Kijiji. They agreed to a meeting spot in Brampton. Benning was off duty that day. He brought his friend and fellow off-duty police officer Calvin Ah with him to make sure the watch was real. After they handed over $400, Facey walked away. When they opened the box, Ah told him the watch was a fake. They chased after Facey and confronted him. Quote, I told him to give me my money back. I reached for the money in Facey's hand and I took it. Benning told the court what happened next. Quote, as far as I was concerned, the chase was over. Then Calvin took him down. His arms were flailing. I don't know if he was trying to hit us. Benning testified, quote, I called 911. I told Facey we were police to try and calm him down. That 911 call was played in court. 911 operator, do you need officer assistance? Did it get violent at all? Constable Benning, we chased him down. We got our money back. We are heading out. Benning is heard telling the dispatcher it was a Kijiji deal gone bad and they didn't need any help. Court heard earlier testimony that Chad Facey was in medical distress after this interaction with the off-duty officers. When he arrived home, family members called 911. He was in and out of consciousness. I saw his eyes. They were rolling back into his head. Facey was transported to Brampton Civic Hospital. The 19-year-old died later that night.
So let's look back at what happened here. A young man lost his life. We all know in a situation where a deal goes wrong and somebody dies, the charges would most likely be second-degree murder. However, I have seen cases where manslaughter charges were laid on the average civilian. With that being said, this is another case of a police officer having his charges downgraded throughout the whole process, and in the end, he is found guilty of assault.
Calvin Au has been found not guilty of assault causing bodily harm, but guilty to the lesser offense of assault.
So the charges that should have been second-degree murder were laid as a manslaughter charge, which was later downgraded to aggravated assault and ultimately a simple assault. That does not sound like justice to me.
Au's defense was that he intended to arrest Facey, but the judge found that there was no evidence that that was his plan. Chad Facey posted an ad on Kijiji for an Apple Watch and negotiated a price of $400 with Toronto Police Constable Gurmak Benning. The two agreed to meet at 45 Iron Shield Drive in Brampton to do the transaction. Court heard Benning asked Calvin Au, his partner, to accompany him, given he viewed Au as more tech-savvy and wanted him to authenticate the watch. The two off-duty officers wearing plain clothes drove to Brampton and met Facey in the parking lot of a public school around 2:30 p.m. on April 26, 2021. Benning bought the watch before realizing it was fake. After Facey took off and a 5-minute foot chase involving Au, Benning caught up with Facey and got his money back. Benning testified Calvin Au, without saying anything, took Facey down, believing Au did not know he had gotten his money back. Facey ended up on his back. Au, who took the stand in his own defense, testified he did not know Benning got his money back, and the purpose of the takedown was to get the money and to arrest him. But he never told Facey he was arresting him, nor identified himself as a police officer, which the judge found problematic. Benning called 911 and told the dispatcher about the Kijiji deal gone bad before the off-duty officers drove off. According to the facts, friends noticed a bump on Facey's forehead around 5 that afternoon. Facey later died that day in hospital, but according to the facts, the Crown is not in a position to allege that Facey's death was caused by the interaction with Au. The judge said that Au had the authority to arrest Facey, but never told him that he was an officer, nor told him about his plan to make an arrest, despite ample opportunity. She also found that the Crown did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the bruise on Facey's forehead was a result of the takedown. A sentencing hearing is planned for January the 6th.
Another clear case of corruption for everybody to see. Ask yourself a couple of questions. Number 1, if the officers had nothing to hide, why was Chad not arrested on the spot? Number 2, if the call was made to 911 dispatch from the scene, how is there 120 days between the incident and the start of the investigation? Number 3, if the officers killed the teenager and attempted to get away with it, how can we believe anything they say? Only 3 people know what happened that day. One of them is dead, and the other 2 are lying murderers who avoided justice thanks to their employment status as police officers. See you next Sunday for another one.